Yo, I decided to start recording this video because if I would have continued down this rabbit hole, I may have not made it here.
I guess I'm being spontaneous. Somebody help me!
Okay, but let's get into this. Today's video is going to be about religious psychosis. I am going through a few TikTok videos about religious psychosis, and the inspiration behind this video starts with this one. So I'm going to play this video, and then I'm going to play a different perspective on this topic. But what I want you all to do, I want you to invite yourself to this conversation in an open way. Meaning, maybe you are someone who believes in religious psychosis. I need you to invite yourself to listen to different perspectives. Maybe you're someone who maybe you're someone who is not a believer of religious psychosis. I would like you to challenge yourself, invite yourself to the conversation, to go through a series of questions, to go through a series of perspectives. Let's play this video.
I inactivated my license and I quit my job as a therapist. And I feel so relieved, but not for the reasons that y'all think, right? The Lord revealed to me that he needs more of his believers in area of deliverance, not in the area of diagnosing. Because the thing is that, oh Lord, and hear me by the Spirit, these people do not have mental health issues. These are demonic beings that have access to their body, to their mind, to their soul.
Just in case this woman comes out of spiritual psychosis or a manic episode or whatever this is, and decides, well, maybe I will go back to being a therapist, a mental health practitioner. I'd like to make sure this is documented for posterity. At no point should you have ever been a mental health practitioner, and I hope that you never are again. Frankly, if I was one of your former patients and I saw this, I'm calling Amex and I'm disputing those charges. I'm saying, Mr. Amex, I need my money back. You're absolutely right. You're not meant to be guiding anyone anywhere. People who require mental health assistance are possessed by demons, you say. Okay, cool.
So as of today, I have done something that I never thought I would do. I inactivated my license and I quit my job as a therapist. And I feel so relieved, but not for the reasons that y'all think, right? The Lord revealed to me that he needs more of his believers in area of deliverance, not in the area of diagnosing. Because the thing is that, oh Lord, and hear me by the Spirit, these people do not have mental health issues. These are demonic beings that have access to their body, to their mind, to their soul. And what they are doing is they're manifesting the physical symptoms of being present with those demons. How do I know? I was a person that growing up, I was always ready to myself, like always. I don't know where, it came from. I don't even know how it was introduced to my life. I do not come from a family where anybody themselves. I never had any friends that themselves, but I always struggled with that. I also used to myself as well. I struggled severely from anxiety, depression, overwhelming thoughts. And it was even a time in my life where my rage would be I would be so enraged. I got angry all the time. And in my states of angry or anger, I would want to really hurt people. It's not funny, but I'm literally thinking about my life and the Lord has had my life on repeat. And I thought that I needed to go to therapy. I thought that I needed the medication. I thought that I needed this and I needed that. And because I was apart from the Lord for so many years of my life, and even when I first came into this field, I still was not saved. I just thought, you need somebody to talk to. You need somebody to help you understand what's going on. And you need somebody to make you feel comfortable, and this needs to be a safe space. There are no safe space for demons. There are no safe space for demons. And what we don't understand is that when you are studying to become a therapist, they introduce you to this book that's called the DSM-5. The DSM-5 is a book, okay? It is a book of demonic association. Let's just call it what it is. And I know that if you are not a believer, you're not going to understand what I'm saying. I'm not talking to y'all. I'm talking to Christian blood-bought believers, those who believe in Jesus Christ. All right. And so when people come in and they talk to you and they say, oh, I've been struggling with this, I've been struggling with that, you go to this book, you look up the symptoms of what they tell you, and then you assign them a diagnosis. As soon as you assign them a diagnosis, that gives the demonic continued legal access to their life, because that's a word curse. That is a word curse. Us as children of God, children of Jesus, Jesus left us with the authority to trample over the serpent, to trample over the snake, to trample over and overcome every evil power in this world, because that's the authority he had while he was in the flesh. He has also let us know, like the Bible's so beautiful because the Bible talks about how to deal with these things. There's numerous verses I can pull up about dealing with anxiety. There's numerous scriptures about how to cast your cares onto the Lord and how to find peace and joy within salvation and within the Lord. You don't need to go talk to somebody, a therapist, and get diagnosed and get a treatment plan and then learn how to do that. No, if you are a believer, go to the Word of God. And I know that, it's crazy, right? But when I started to look into the origins of therapy, a lot of spectators, I don't even want to call them spectators because I believe it. They said a lot of these practices came from witch doctors, witches, people in very secular, basically, look, it's a lot. I want you to go look it up for yourself. But the Lord started to break down every single modality of therapy, and he asked me to compare it to forms of witchcraft. And I'm just going to share one. The whole tapping thing, I never liked that, even as a therapist. The EFT, the tapping techniques, those are the places that you have to tap in order to get these hot spots to and unlock this energy and to kind of like become your higher conscious self so that you can receive healing. Those are the same spots that witches tap themselves to do the exact same thing. You cannot tell me that this is a Christ-led field. And you're talking to somebody who was a Christian therapist. And so many times I went before the throne of God, just pleading on their behalf, just praying and fasting for clients, fasting with clients. And finally I was like, Lord, something is not working. And he says that you can't cast out a demon that you keep inviting in. Every time you go and you sign off on that document that says this is their diagnosis, all you're doing is reassigning that demon back to them. It don't matter what y'all just talked about. So you're operating in witchcraft. A lot of people, their gifts are distorted by the enemy. So I believe that I have a gift of healing. I know I have a gift of influence. I know that because of my crazy, wild testimony, there's nobody that can sit in front of me and that I cannot relate to them with. But relating to people is not enough. Casting out the things that are tormenting them, that is enough. That is what we're supposed to do. So I literally, and when I learned all this stuff, it was hard because that's all I wanted to do my whole life was be a therapist. That's it. That's what I strived for in all of my ambitiousness, all of my plans. I just want to help people. But I want to help people know who God is. And I want to help people experience deliverance and experience freedom and experience healing and cast out devils and get out of bondage and receive the life that God has for them. God does not have the life for you to sit here and have to take all these pills because you're dealing with all these spirits. God did not design a life for you to sit here and keep talking about your past and keep talking about the resentment you have towards your mom and your dad and these people who hurt you. The Lord didn't design for you to live a life like that. The Lord didn't design for you to live a life where you're always plagued with anxiousness and depression and tormenting thoughts and different things like that. And then you go pay and you use your insurance and you sit and talk to somebody for 50 minutes and then they teach you a coping skill. There are no coping skills with dealing with demons. There are none. There are none. There is prayer, there is fasting, there is deliverance, there is freedom. That's it. That's all. That's the recipe. So it's been a very, very, very heavy couple days receiving all the revelation from this stuff. But I am the type of person that I truly do believe when the Lord brings something to my attention, I cannot turn a blind eye. I cannot. And even if that means I have to make choices that make people feel uncomfortable or that go against things that I originally wanted for myself, I care more about my brothers and sisters' soul than I do getting a paycheck. That's it. Because the pay ain't really even that good anyways. And so I want to use the gifts that God has given me for liberation, for freedom, to teach the body of Christ who he is, to bring souls to him. You know, God didn't give me these gifts to sit here and diagnose people and do all this other type of stuff. No, he has given me a strong gift of healing and being in deliverance. And it's time for me to tap into that. It's time for me to truly become a disciple who goes and lays hands on the sick and goes and heals the sick and goes and preaches the kingdom of God, you know, and preaches about Jesus. And I can't do that playing both sides. I can't be used by the world and being used by the kingdom of God. So, yeah. That's pretty much it. And I know a lot of y'all were DMing me like, Jordan, we don't see any of your therapy videos anymore. Jordan, are you still practicing? Jordan, are you this? The answer is no. And you'll never see another therapy video from me, ever. You'll never see my name on anybody else's website. You'll never be able to go to anybody's state board and see that Jordan is a practicing therapist. And that is a promise I made to the Lord. You'll never be able to see that. No. But what you will see is me healing people by my testimony and by my gifts of the Holy Spirit. What you will see is me trying to win souls for Christ. What you will see is me speaking out against these demonic things that are just normalized. That's what you will see. You will see me being a disciple for Christ. So, yeah, that's it. This is a very long rant. If you're offended by anything I said, take it to the Lord. If you're a therapist watching this and you're a Christian, take it to the Lord. I'll show you guys some videos that I watched that continue to lead to my conviction and different things like that and my revelation from God. I'll pray for whoever. If you need a mentor, I'm here. If you need a mother in some type of form, I'm here. But a therapist, no, ma'am, I denounce.
Okay, so I want to read a few comments before we get off of this video. The first one is, this is why I don't feel safe with Christian therapists as someone who has deconstructed. This next one says, heal the sick, not diagnose them. How does one heal with no diagnoses? This next one says, religious psychosis is so scary and no one wants to talk about it. My stepmother thinks that the devil physically interferes with her life and people act like that's just normal. She did right because she needs to be a patient. And this last one says, this is not new. Back in 1999, I was finishing up school for psychology and the church told me that I could not practice that because it was demonic and hypnosis war. And hypnosis was a part of the curriculum during that time. It was a ploy to make me a stay-at-home mom. I ended up dropping out, but when I finally snapped out of religious psychosis and deconstructed, I went back to school 20 plus years later for law. Now, y'all, unfortunately, when I was watching this video, I thought about what's trending topics right now. Okay, I'm on a mission. What are some trending topics that are coming my way? And when I saw this particular piece, I said, oh, you know what this reminds me of? This reminds me of how everyone right now has Cheyenne Bryant in their subject line. So I'm going to put it in there. Let's see what happens. Now, Cheyenne Bryant is an influencer on social media. I think she works through different spaces talking about love. She's been a guest on a lot of different podcasts. I don't know much about her, all of the things that she did. The only thing that stood out to me is one time she was talking about gentle parenting and she had a different perspective than I did on gentle parenting. So I did a video on it. You can watch it if you want to. Anyway, what I realized as I was looking up keywords and I was looking at trending topics and I was watching these TikToks. As I was looking at all of these different topics, I was looking for what was trending. I was looking for what people were saying about religious psychosis. I thought about my interest in making a video. And then I thought about language and descriptions and definitions. and meaning in this life, and how there's so many different people who will have a meaning for a definition. And if people don't align with that definition or meaning, then it's off and it's wrong, because it's not everyone else falling in line with their idea and perspective of this thing. And usually that comes from something organized. We all agree that a cheer is a cheer. We all agree that we're going to follow these laws in order to have order. We're going to put in these institutions and colleges and universities so that people can be accountable for their actions, right? So those are things that we somehow decide that there is some source of truth, there's some source of credibility that we all are falling in line with. And so when everyone falls in line with it, the world is right. Now, segue just a little bit. Follow me through my thoughts, y'all. It's going to be a great journey. I went through a street interview, and I've had some guests on the podcast answer this question about what reality would they want to live in. Reality one is a reality where everything is honest and true. When someone engages with you, they are completely honest. So let's say you want them to help you clean your room. They say, I don't feel like it. I don't want to clean my room. And you get that answer and move on with your life. Or you might feel some type of way. But the goal in this world is anyone who engages with you, they won't be phony. They won't pretend. They won't act like something is what it's not in their reality as they respond to you. So you get honest and you get truth. In the other world, in the other reality, whatever your desire, your needs, your wants, they are always met when you engage with people. Now, let me map this all together. When I think about being on social media and why I enjoy experiencing social media is because it's like a huge case study. It's a huge case study of the Earth experience. People are now coming to social media and they're saying exactly how they feel. They're pulling out their thoughts and their think pieces, and their belief systems are all pouring through the screen. They're telling you everything that they feel, desire, and even some insecurities are surfacing, even some hate, even some delusions, even some dreams and hopes are surfacing. So in this reality where people come in the world and they get into this other reality, fake reality of social media, and I'm not sure if it's completely fake. Some people are real. I'm a real person. Like, look, I'm a real person and I'm coming on the internet. I consider myself real even though I'm on social media. But sometimes when we're engaging in social media, because we consume it so much, we're like, this can't be real, or this is all fake, and this is just the performance that people are giving on. I will say this is a performance because I don't walk around talking like this unless I'm in an engaging conversation. I'm engaging with a screen, hoping there are people on the other side listening when they press play, right? But the idea is that we are on social media and we're getting people's responses of how they want the world to be. If they criticize something, for instance, let's say a Christian YouTuber comes on the podcast or comes on YouTube and he says, hey, that other Christian person is demonic and they don't know the truth and they don't know the world. And then someone who is into deconstructing and they pass through deconstructing and they say, I have deconstructed completely. I don't believe in any of this mess. They come on and they say, oh, all of these Christians, they're a bunch of delusional dummies and all the bad things that you can say about a person. Both sides are finding reason to find fault. But if they lived in their ideal reality, if they lived in their ideal society, what does that look like? When they pull out their definitions and meanings and functionalities, what does it look like? Some would say, I just want peace on earth. What does peace look like? It means that there might be some agreeableness. Maybe someone in an honest reality won't really want to agree with your reality, but because they're engaging with you, they now fall into place. They are going with your society rules. They're going with how you see society. Let me pull this out just a little bit if you're not following me. I have to illustrate this now because I think you might not be following me. So let's go back to that Christian YouTuber. He says, no one in the world can be walking around here with shorts because that's against God. So then in his world, in his reality, he would choose the reality where everyone is walking around without shorts. They all wear long skirts. They all, I don't know what I wanted to say there. They all just fall in line with what he says. Then the next thing he critiques is, you can't be listening to that hip hop music. And so in his world, no one is listening to hip hop music. Everyone is singing, glory, glory to the Lord our God. I love gospel music, by the way. I love it so much. But in his world, that's what it looks like. Now let's go over to the next reality, right? This is social media world I'm talking about. But in the social media world, we have someone come on and they say, Christians, I just want y'all to stop being so dumb. I want y'all to read the word. Y'all so dumb. Y'all so stupid. I hate them. Right? They're, okay. Both sides, actually, I hope that I'm giving balance here because I don't want to be on one side or the other. I try to be balanced. That's what the channel is supposed to be about. Balance. Okay. So we're living in a world, social media world, and this is what I'm receiving. And I'm stopping and I'm pausing and I'm thinking, do we see this?
Drug dealing just to get by. Stack your money till it gets sky high. We wasn't supposed to make it past 25. Joke's on you, we still alive. Throw your hands up in the sky and say, we don't care what people say.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Do we engage with this without pausing and thinking and considering that something is off? No matter where I land in my algorithm, I can find a place where someone is upset with the other people and they want them to fit their form. But in an honest world, there are going to be people who have a difference in meaning and thinking and delivering. And all of us cooperate in that world, there's going to be some nonsense because there are going to be people who really believe in what their faith is to the full extent. There are people who are really going to believe that that's not possible to the full extent. And so operating with them means what? If I'm operating in this world and I have a belief system that I carry, the fruit of what I believe should be evident somewhere, right? There should be some evidence that loving your neighbor as yourself is going to result in positive feedback at the end of the day, or some positive result at the end of the day. If I keep loving my neighbor as myself and I keep running into a situation where it's getting worse and worse as I keep loving my neighbor as myself, it's like, I just keep showing love and they just keep showing hate. I might want to reassess. Maybe I still believe in loving my neighbor as myself, but now I got to reassess and say, well, maybe I don't know what love is. Maybe I don't really understand what love is because I thought this felt right. This sounded right, but in my reality, it's not landing well. Okay. I'm hoping y'all follow me through that because I have other places to go. Now we're going to shift over to Cheyenne Bryant and how people respond. So think of the whole social media world. It's like, she's a fraud. She's delusional. She's all these things. They put all these labels on this person that they may not know. They may not ever interact with. But because social media is a place where, like me, I'm coming on here just talking about people, right? You can come on and just start talking. It's as if people feel like they have the right to do so because they see it online. It's like, now that I see it, I have visibility into your world. Everything that you say is now something I need to talk about. I've also saw this because I guess I am getting things served to me to help me make my point, where there is a famous YouTube duo named Abba and Preach. And people love their content. And all of a sudden, there's this war. Abba has a young lady that he's dealing with outside of social media. So he's in the real world, living in the real world, right? And then he comes to social media world to practice, to give his insight. But in his real world is now mushing in to this social media world. And now he's exposed to all the things, right? So, he gets exposed because that real person in the real world decided to bring it into the social media world. And now he has to respond to his audience. He has to tell them about his life, where he chose the social media world for a compartment to give his opinions about other people or about his thoughts on society and the world, and then go back to his personal world. Okay, then this is last example, because I hope I can bring this home for anyone who's watching. This last example is with another YouTuber. It's a YouTuber and a comedian. And a YouTuber and comedian, they decide to do a show together, but the result of that show also resulted in people's real lives coming into the social media life, okay? Now that I have those 3 examples, and maybe you know these examples, maybe you don't, but the core theme beyond all 3 of the examples is that the social media world is now coming into and merging with someone's reality. And the social media world believes that they have the dominion, they have the right to give commentary because it somehow will change that person's real life and how they operate in real life. Now, this is the question. As social media people, as a consumer of social media, do you believe that your thoughts and your opinions and your meanings and your descriptions will actually shift someone's reality? If so, how? And if it does, which format do you think is most receptive? Now I'm going to go into this other lane where I was talking to a person in the United States of America, and we were talking about criticism. And the criticism from people you know in your life that love and adore you, that might not say it the best way, and people who you don't know. And there was weight to it, right? The person, let's consider someone who has a grandma or auntie, and a grandma or auntie sees you at the cookout, and the first thing they say before they say hello is, "Dang, you gaining weight, aren't you? You getting big, aren't you?" And you're like, "Dang, like, hello, how are you, sweetie?" But from this conversation, I gained a new perspective, because I always thought it might be better to just say hello. I've always looked at people, I don't know how to explain this, but the first thing I'm thinking about when I see someone that I love or that's a part of my family or that I like is not typically something they have on or their body structure, unless it was significantly changing. But even if that was the case, the first thing I want to say to them would not be that criticism. So I used to respond to that type of notion like, okay, that's it. Now, when I was having this conversation with this person in the United States of America, she mentioned that she took that as a form of love. That someone who loves you cares that much about you to pay that much attention to you. So maybe you should consider whatever they're saying.
I miss you like crazy. I think about you all the time. I want to be with you.
And on the other side of this is sometimes people are saying things and they don't need to say it. Not only do they not need to say it, they don't have to say it in a way that's harmful or disgusting, but they choose to. And then that's revealing of what's on that person's mind and how they see the world and how they see people, right? If I see a person and the things that are coming and surfacing into my mind are always negative things, I might want to pause and think, is there another perspective that I can see here? Given the situation is not harming, that's going to be a slippery slope. I'm going to stop and pause there. There are situations that definitely call for you to, at the top of your mind, think this is a horrific person. I hate them. Let's bash them, right? When people are intentionally destroying lives and they are harming people physically, they are people out there who will take a tool and run it through people. Those are things or they harm children. These are things that disgust us. They come to the surface. It's like, rah, rah, rah. But when there are people navigating this world and trying to figure out this and separating this, and they just have a different opinion than yours, perhaps you could still be disgusted. Perhaps you could still be, have to lead with name calling. But maybe there's a conversation that's due. But the thing about having a conversation that's due is that in the real world, you could probably come up to someone and talk to them and say, hey, I didn't like the way you said that. Is there something I'm misunderstanding about what you said? Or you can get on the phone and you can dial them and you can say things. But in the social media world, you can just get online and have it one-sided and have it disconnected and just talk about whatever you want without actually engaging with this person that you really don't even know or have a relationship with. So your attention to them means what to them? Your attention to them means that they hear a lot of noise. They start to get feedback like something is wrong. Perhaps that is the route that they'll take. That everyone is angry about this. Maybe I sit and pause because there's enough people who are uproaring about this topic that maybe I should consider that I have to think through this. That I was probably living in this box where I thought this was true. But now that I'm exposed, because that's what social media does for us, it's exposure therapy. If you're going to be a creator online or say anything online, you're exposing yourself to what other people think, how other people feel. And I imagine the key point or the key goal in being in those situations is that you have to have a strong sense of self. You have to have a strong sense of your identity and belief. And you also have to be self-aware enough to know when you are wrong. Now, going back to the social media world, and this is where I want to point out what I've noticed and whatever I've seen, because I've only seen so much about the ABBA situation with the young lady he had, is that she's bringing out receipts that seems very telling about their intimate personal relationship. No one really got, from what I understand from the situation, no one got physically harmed. I probably shouldn't say that part. From this situation, ABBA did not share any information about being physically harmed or things like that. Maybe it was like this mind thing that spiritually harms us or mentally harms us. But it was something that was a personal situation that was brought into the social world. And there's all these different aspects that now have to be explained in all this other opinions. All the other opinions and ideas are also added to this pot, where in a true relationship, a sincere relationship, where you're like, I honor this person, I respect this person, you would imagine that they would have that conversation in real life and not take it to it's not an artificial world, but it's a weird world of social media to get exposed even more. The beautiful exposure or the growth could have happened with that human to human connection. But instead, we have shifted into this world where the social media perspective has hierarchy over our real life experiences. And I say this because as people who are consumers of content, of creators who are coming on their thought, we somehow think that our opinions will change their world. And our angry opinions will change their world. And the gag is, I don't really want to say that, but it feels appropriate right now. The gag is sometimes it does. Sometimes people's opinions of you online, when you get exposed that way, it does shift you, it does change you, or it does move something in a positive way. And this is the example that I'm lastly going to pull out. Actually, I'm not going to go through the psychosis video today. We'll do that in another video. The point of this video was to talk about religious psychosis, and I was going to connect it to meaning and different languages that we use to say what is true and what is not, especially when it comes to what is truly religious psychosis versus what is a delusion, what looks like it's religious psychosis, but it's just spiritual language in someone's spiritual community. That's where I wanted to get through. So since I'm not going to get through that, I'm going to put this Substack at the end of the video so you can read where I landed with all of this. But before I close, there is a documentary out. It's called Nature Boy Cult. It's on Hulu. And what's coming to my mind now is a reminder that there are two participants in the documentary, and they called them internet detectives. And I was like, oh, is that like a real job? Or did they give them that title of an internet detective because they were acting like detectives on the internet? Y'all. But at the end of the documentary, one of the internet detectives, she spoke about how her work, her investigation actually made a difference. It made a difference. Like all of the work, all of the studying that she did online, all of the curating of events, it shifted this experience of someone being a cult leader, harming people's lives, to it being exposed and him being punished for what they do. And I only bring this into the conversation because there is a healthy line of being consumers that are going to be critics. And I imagine, and I'm open to thinking this through with y'all, but I imagine that the healthy line would be you critic, but you critic from a balanced perspective, that you look from all sides. One. The second thing is, if you are going to criticize and there's value there, you do not have to call people names, because I think it dilutes the fact that you're criticizing someone on an important topic and they're not going to hear that important criticism. They're only going to be able to hear that you call them a name or that you are going to mirror who they are. So on this line of being an internet detective, I imagine in a perfect world, if I was living in that world where the things are the way that my hopes, dreams, and desires would be, it would be that we were always looking at ourselves and how we responded to the internet noise, why we were so invested, what's our passion behind it. Because the internet detective in the documentary called The Nature Boy, the benefit behind her message was that she didn't want anybody to get harmed by a cult. That's beautiful. That's so beautiful. And she actually contributed to that. She was upset and angry, so she had a mission attached to it. When I sift through some of the different trending topics, or like how much time we invest in a person's life, that's the one thing that I'm noting is, are they saying this because they just hate the person because of this flaw that's been brought out and exposed from that person? Or do they really have a meaningful takeaway about why they are investing time in this stranger they do not know in real life? There's probably a good balance in knowing that there are people out here who will expose us and show us that something is wrong in our thinking. And if there's enough noise to it, but intentional, meaningful, mindful noise, it could potentially change people. Now, going back to Cheyenne Bryant, because she's a keyword in trending topics right now. The last example I will share of where this is illustrated the best is when there's another therapist who comes through to correct the way that Cheyenne Bryant is moving in the field. And I think what I've learned from her feedback was that you don't have to hurt or harm people in your criticism, but it's important for us to be honest that something needs to be reviewed. We can probably feel some type of way, like, oh, I don't like that people are being mean to me or that they're criticizing me. But the maturity comes in and when we are able to receive that criticism and filter it out. Filter out what is just your feelings, because your feelings are valid. I think your feelings are valid. They are freedom signals. That's the thing I made up. I don't know if anyone else made it up, but I felt like I made it up. Freedom signals is when we have these triggers, when we're online and we're like, I hate that person. They're so dumb. And it's because something may be happening in our lives, or it's showing us a little bit about who we are and where we came from and why these things strike us. Those are triggers that can be transitioned to freedom signals because they can start to teach us how to be our own detective from the internet. Ooh, y'all see it? Are y'all enjoying this? I'm having so much fun. I don't care if I get 4 views, but if I get 5 views, please click on this like button so that I know that you came this far. Anyway, so we can be our own internet detectives, so that we can be our own internet detectives. That means there's a net. Oh, I feel like this might feel a little religious-y, but this is how I'm thinking right now. That internet that we're on also can reveal something that's like a net inside of us, right? There's this net inside of us. And so whenever we're on the internet and we feel tight when in the comment box, and we feel tight when we click record as a creator, and we feel tight as a consumer of so much information, it probably means that there's some loosening that needs to be done. And sometimes that loosening needs to be done in the real world. And we use this internet, this social media place as a practice. I imagine in this world that I want to create and how I imagine it to be is that we can use these resources like social media, but if there's a mindful way to do so. So in this piece that I'm putting together, I'll be talking through how I imagine social media could be helpful for us if it was developed in a way to be helpful for us. How could we use these type of experiences for our good instead of getting in a trap where we're merging our reality with a unknown reality of all these other realities? Meaning that the people who are talking about, I don't know Cheyenne Bryant, I don't know any of the people that I mentioned in this video except for that person I had a conversation with. But when I think about the fact that I'm exposed and I see this media, what could I do with that type of information versus just consuming it and keeping it flat at whatever belief I want to put onto it? Lastly, I think so. We'll see. Because I think this is making sense, but it might not be making sense. But hopefully when I put that article together that you guys are going to read on the Substack, it will make sense. The last thing I wanted to make sure I get into this draft is meaning and language and how important it is to either, one, first understand our own language and how we use those words, but also consider that we all are speaking different languages, whether that is in a spiritual community or out of a spiritual community, that dictates how we feel about a certain topic or how we respond to a certain topic. All of that is because of the language that we know. I had a conversation with a real person, but it was through the internet, right? And we pulled up a good conversation about language. Actually, let me play that part. I'm going to play this part because I think he says it way better than I do. And then I'll come back.
Basically, it's the study or the theory of when you learn a different language, you have a different perspective on life because languages treat language and, words different than, a lot of people, right? So for example, the US, right? We sit there and say, if we're having an emotional breakdown, if we're in our feelings, we'll sit here and say, I'm sad, I'm crying, I'm this, I'm that, right? That's what we say. So therefore, when we say it out loud, we identify with that. Like, you are sad. You are whatever you just said, right? But in the Japanese, when you translate it to English, they don't say, I am sad. They say, sadness is happening. Meaning like, this is temporary. It's going to pass. So when they say that type of stuff out loud, it doesn't stick, and they don't stick with that identity as, Americans.
But the idea that I took away from that segment is that I have people in my life that speak a different language to me, and I don't always understand. Sometimes I'm feeling through the conversation, like I can feel what they say and I have limited understanding, but I don't have the full understanding. So there's a translation that has to be done. And even when we have the translation, there are words and phrases that I cannot meet because I do not know that language fully. And when I think about when we talk about if someone is religious psychosis or if someone is a therapist or if they're not a therapist or if they are delusional and all these words, we all can consider that we might be looking at these words and these perspectives from limited views and not bringing in the full story. And Going back to Cheyenne Bryant and this therapist, the beginning of this video was the young lady who was looking at a therapist and critiquing like what the move should be. But that therapist is also a person living in their human life, and they have a connection to their religious beliefs that form the way that they move forward. And I don't know if that's supposed to be an intentional harm to the next person, but the way that we receive information that we consume is also part of our responsibility. So as I receive all this information, I consume all this information, I don't naturally attach myself to Cheyenne Bryant or these other content creators as if they will dictate my world, because it's important for me to learn and understand who I am in this world, especially because this is the social media reality. When I practice living out in reality, I'm confronted with real situations that affect my life. And so how I nurture them and how I show less attention to something or more attention to something, it's shaping what's going on in my world. And that could be a belief that I'm attaching to because of the world that I live in, but it could be a belief that someone else outside of that reality, outside of that experience would not attach to. Like, there's no way that your thoughts and your behaviors is going to form your reality, because if you were to say, I want to go to the moon right now and go to the moon, it wouldn't happen. So there is this borderline. When do we know when this meaning is true or this language is true? Most of us use evidence. What's the fruit of what you are doing? Like your behavior, what's the fruit of that? So when you come online and you consume this information, the fruit is what? Will you be an internet detective that will expose a nature boy? Or will you be an internet detective that exposes yourself? And you realize what insecurities are coming up from you because you're so mad about this other person that you do not know. Is that an opportunity for you to like, dang, like I was really invested in that conversation. I was really invested in what they did. I wonder what I think is going to come from this, or I wonder what I can learn from myself. Those are helpful things to consider, especially when you feel your body moving. Okay. You're on the internet and you shaking and you're like, then you go into the real world and you mad about what happened in the social media world. Those are things to stop and pause and consider, like, oh, I need to breathe. What's going on? Maybe it's not happening on that level, but it feels like that when you're going through comments sometimes. It's like, dang, is everything okay? Okay, I thought this was going to be the last point because it reminded me of something I saw at a comedy show. I was going to a comedy show in the United States of America, and the man was talking about how when he goes into YouTube comments, how he fabricates an entire story about his life. He made it seem like he overcame some dramatic experience and everybody's like liking it, like, oh, good, God bless, da da da. But he went there to just troll. I think that's the right term for it. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. I'm open to correction for some things. And for some reason, even though it was a comedy show, it shocked me. It was like, that's crazy, right? It's so crazy because all of these comments, all of these different perspectives, people can be coming from a performative lens. They can be coming from a lens where they just want likes and views so they can get more money. Oh, actually, that probably was the wrong space to smile, but I do want likes and views. I'm not making money.
Because you don't talk right.
But I want to have great conversations with people because it's fun. So my benefit in putting out content is I get to think through my thoughts. I can draft them. I can write them, which is all a part of my creator experience of creating things because they make me feel good. And I've come to the conclusion that maybe one day a video will inspire one person. And that's really fantastic if I really inspire them in their real life to shift a perspective or to consider thinking more mindfully about themselves or how they talk to themselves. If I understand why I'm here, it is because I was a consumer of the internet and someone told a really, really good story and it helped me transition. And I love collecting those stories. I know why I'm here. And I hope that when I create and I get more creative with the things, that I invite people to join that journey with me and they honestly like it for this moment and they honestly don't like it for this one, that is just honest and that it's an opportunity to grow. There's room to grow and to think without being dictated by an algorithm or dictated by someone's personal belief at that point in their journey. It's really like, this is where I am right now. Let me take these journal questions. Let me think through them. Let me really work on like how I might be able to better and refresh my thinking to see if there's fruit that comes from it. If there's fruit from me thinking on the good, is there fruit from that? Is there fruit from me? Why am I getting so passionate again? I said I was going to come on here real cool. Like, this is my video, yo. I'm going to talk about some things, but then I just got passionate. Okay. But what I wanted to say is that I'm learning through this social media experience what it means to be exposed from the outside. Like, I don't have nobody checking for me online right now. So I can't imagine my personal life coming on the internet. Everybody like, dang, right? Like, right? About my personal life coming here. And then everyone has a misinterpretation of who I am or what my mission is. And they just going off of what they feel and think. Having that type of exposure is a big challenge. Any creator that decides to get on the internet and not just be a consumer, but also be a creator, it's like, oh, right? Because you really have the opportunity to gain from this experience, but you also are risking everything else that comes with that. That you're now inviting all of these different eyeballs on you, all of these different perspectives on you to see what is of you. Like, can you handle the criticism? I'm not sure if I got to this point, but what I appreciate about when Abba got exposed or his life was exposed to the internet, that he was able to be honest about where his mistakes was. He was able to be accountable for where those mistakes were, but he also didn't like crumble and just started like, I don't know, maybe he did somewhere and I haven't seen it yet. But from the content that I consumed, it wasn't like he crumbled to bow down to the knees of the situation. He really gave it an opportunity he was an opportunity to show maturity. Like, we make mistakes as humans in the real world. And as consumers of social media, we think that people can't get it wrong, but they can. Now, this is really the last note. Let's go back to Cheyenne. Let's go back to Cheyenne. I don't know how to have this conversation properly. But one thing that I hope that we can consider is that there's understanding on both sides. So we have Dr. Cheyenne and we have Cheyenne Bryant, and then we have Dr. Raquel. Dr. Raquel is giving a mindful approach to like, this is what's important, this is why it's important. And even though Cheyenne is like, I don't give a F about what none of y'all say, I'ma be me, right? She's also a part of a community. There's a community that understands that before psychology or therapy came along, what did we do? And did psychology and therapy help us get better at things? And if so, what are the stories of how going to therapy helps you? And let's take another arrow. Are there people who experience therapy and psychology with flawed people and they also don't have any results? Are there people who have experiences with life coaches that have a positive result? So there's all of that storyline. I imagine that the point that people were upset about with the Cheyenne Bryant is that there was not transparency and there was not honesty. So that's going back to that honest world. If everyone is honest about how they feel and what they do, the key takeaway to that message is, hey, I don't believe in the therapy system. I might believe in a scripture that says that God is the one who gives me that authority. And if she believes in that scripture like that, and you don't believe in it, then y'all have to learn how to function through a world where you believe that and when you believe this. Now, the consumers, right? The consumers become detectives for themselves, internet detectives, and they say, I'm so ready for this conversation. They are internet detectives for themselves, and they decide, hey, as my belief system, as my values, I don't respect therapy, because when I went to therapy, I did not have a good experience. But when I went to this lady who was a life coach, I had results in my life. I had more fruit come from it. I can actually speak to it because I went to this life coach. So I'm just a life coach person. Another person. This is why the world is so dynamic. It's a lot of things happening here. It's not one size shoe. Another person can come in and say, I don't deal with life coaches because I had a really severe situation and I needed some help through that. And the life coach wasn't enough. She could not get me in the right direction because the system said that she could not. So I need to go to a place where someone cared enough to study it. They cared enough to take time in this practice to nurture and care. And that's why I want to go to a therapist. Now, I've had my mix of both. I've had my mix of having a therapist when I was just like, ooh, I don't know, right? But I have several therapists. I shouldn't say several. It made it seem like let me get rid of the stigma. But I've had other therapists where I had breakthroughs. I was able to see a difference in my life. And this last component, I will say, and I'm being honest about this because I'm still working through this, but I've had experiences where, yes, it felt like God was my therapist and God actually worked with my therapist and they were talking as I was having conversations with God, that when I got into a therapy session, it was as if God told her how to communicate with me in a therapy session. These are all realities that have existed. And so when we're listening to other people and we may not have that same experience, do we really get rid of it fully just because we haven't experienced it? Or do we try to understand where the definitions and the meanings get distorted? Because if, let's say, Cheyenne Bryant's idea of what a therapist is that she doesn't feel like some other authority in this world, in this land, outside of her belief in God, does make a difference in her life. Maybe she feels like God is working through her. Now, people who decide to consume her ideologies and her belief systems would also say that they align with that type of belief system, right? That they also don't feel like somebody in the system can help them that's already broken. They might feel like, oh, why would I trust the system if the system do this? I don't care about what they do because everybody flawed. Maybe I just have a spiritual relationship with life and I get my answers that way. All of it is up for investigation. All of it is up has an opportunity to be real in someone's world.
Let me pause right here. I want to give this part some texture. We just spent some time talking about Cheyenne Bryant and adding to the algorithm, about credentials, about who gets to call themselves a therapist, about who's a grifter and who is the real one. But there's another piece of this conversation I do not want us to skip, because for every Cheyenne Bryant we are debating, there are also licensed, credentialed, properly trained therapists who sat with people for years and did not move them. That is also real. A few months ago, I talked to a guest on the show. She shared two things that have been moving her: movement in her trading, real money, real results, and movement in her trauma, both from the same tool. And it puts us in real conversation because we are not just out here looking for truth. We are looking for something that makes us win. So we have to be honest about where the win is actually showing up. It is with a life coach. It is with a therapist. Or it can be with a tool that gets us a refined answer faster than the back and forth with another human being. This is not me saying drop the humans. Humans, flaws and all, still matter. But maybe the question is whether we are willing to pair the humans with the resources that close the gap their flaws leave open. Let's listen to this clip.
I do also use tools like ChatGPT to help me with healing from all types of areas in my life, like examining like harmful behaviors that I may be experiencing in my environment, going through healing. Like ChatGPT has helped me immensely with healing because of the level of insight that ChatGPT has. Like if I tell it that, I'm having a thought about something, or I'm having these feelings come up for me, it will like really break it down, and then it'll even tie it to something that, occurs normally in humans, so that, you don't feel alone in it. And, you can help to process a lot of like emotions and stuck things that you're holding on to. So I've been using it heavily just for healing. And it's been working. Like, it's been helping me get through things really quickly, much quicker than if I didn't have that tool. So I'm like, well, AI really has a no real purpose for humans if we use it correctly. It can really help us get through tough situations, especially emotionally and mentally, really, really quickly if we're able to take the insight that it gives on what it knows about humans and apply it to ourselves, and we can see.
When you think about AI, ChatGPT, and all the conversations around it, do you look at ChatGPT and AI with the lenses of like, it could also be harmful to the environment and harmful to the relationships that we have with other people or ourselves, and we might be dependent on the tool? Or is your experience outweighing tools like going to a therapy or the community that existed before you used ChatGPT? What are your thoughts around those conversations?
I really feel like the pros outweigh the cons right now, like especially as we're learning how to use the tool and as I'm learning how to use the tool. You know, like going to therapy is very valuable for me, but it doesn't equate to the level of insight that I've reached by using ChatGPT. My therapist definitely gave me cues and insights to look into things, but I took those cues and insights and put them into ChatGPT. Like, I'm not trying to like say that over and over again, but you know, it's true. And then it just helped me further break down everything that I was experiencing to a level that I completely understood, and I could see where I could make corrections that are meaningful to me and why I'm being held back by certain things. So it's like, you know, I feel like I'm not really experiencing any negatives except for maybe like the time I spend on ChatGPT and you know, interfacing with the technology. Maybe that's one con, but like as far as what I'm learning, it's kind of worth the time that I'm spending, because you know, I might be carrying this weight for like years and years and years, but now, you know, I'm learning at such a level that I'm able to get through some traumas within a few days, you know, a few days, 2 weeks, you know. So it's helping me process my trauma.
As a consumer, you have the opportunity to create your reality. And I know that sounds wild because when you say create your reality, there's but so much you can do in creating your own reality. But there is some agency you have there. There's some there's some decisions that you have in this life that can point you one way or the other. I have a decision whether or not I'm going to go to Trader Joe's that day or if I'm going to go to Whole Foods, right? I know that I'm making that decision. There's no other entity that's saying, go to Trader Joe's. And if it is, I don't know about it. In my honest opinion, I know that I'm saying, yes, I'm going to Trader Joe's. There's something particular that I need there. So I'm going to go there today, but it might be Whole Foods the next day. And I make that last note because I had a really good conversation about this idea of belief systems. I'm going to put that in the description below, that little clip it, because we go through this idea of belief systems in different stores and what's right and what's wrong is dependent on who you are as a consumer. Where are you right now in your life? If you're someone who needs a therapist that is aligned with your values, all you really need to do is choose that therapist. When the other therapists come along, like a Dr. Cheyenne Bryant that you don't align with, you give people enough trust to know that they are following something that they needed at their time. I'm not sure there's much that we can do to save the world with hating and being mean about a certain situation. But it could be some value if you show your story, you share your story of why is it so important for me to go to someone who has credentials, who cares and studies. Why is that important to me? Let me show you what this results are. Then people who might be going astray, might be going to a therapist that could be telling all their business online, or going to a therapist that's lying about their credentials and just wanting to get your money, whatever the case may be, whatever storylines are out there, if they're going to the wrong place, show them the benefits and the fruit of the right place. Because what we're doing when we're finding that person online to be our story, our drama for the day, is that we're just adding more drama to the algorithm. And my ideal world would be that we start shifting some of that drama and that what do you call it? Shock factor. There it was. We start shifting all that shock factor content to like something that might be meaningful and helpful as we navigate this earth together. But that's it. I actually got through that. I feel good about ending this video. I feel like I got most of my thoughts out, even though I didn't go through those psychosis video. I am imagine that if you're here this long that you like some of what I said, or maybe you didn't like it. And I would love for you to be in the comments and tell me what you don't like, because let's engage in conversation.
The internet detective theory is the idea that what I investigate online often reveals the inner work asking for my attention offline. The internet gives me people to inspect, but my reaction gives me something to study. The person on the screen may be performing, lying, teaching, joking, provoking, healing, selling, searching, or simply trying to be seen. I do not have to put them on a pedestal, and I do not have to fall into every performance as if it owns me. I can watch with agency. I can ask quality questions. I can notice what is useful, what is harmful, what is incomplete, and what is mine to leave alone. The internet detective becomes dangerous when I only use that skill to build cases against other people. It becomes useful when I let the case point back to my own life. Why did this bother me? Why did this inspire me? Why did this make me want to argue? Why did this make me want to create? Why did this want me protective? Why did this make me suspicious? Why did this make me hopeful? That is where the real information is. Social media can become a practice ground for discernment. If I stop treating every scroll like a courtroom, it can show me what I care about, what I fear, what I want to say, what I want to reform, what I want to understand, and what I may be ready to build. It can show me where I still outsource trust, where I still need someone else to tell me what is good, and where I'm learning to make quality decisions without handing over my mind. The theory is not that every trigger is truth. The theory is that every reaction can become evidence. Evidence of a wound, evidence of a value, evidence of a belief, of a desire, of a place where my life is asking for more intention than my feed. So when I feel myself becoming an internet detective, I want to pause before I make someone else the whole case. What is this showing me about what I value, about what I fear, about the tool that I have chosen or refused to choose? What is this showing me about the world I want to help create when I leave the app? Because most of my attention still belongs in the real world. The internet may show me the clues, but my life is where the evidence has to become fruit.
Until next time, hold on to you as much as you can. Hold on to your health, your well-being, and your mind. Be mindful. Bye.
Breathe.